Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another lore reading video. This time we're continuing our look at the Encyclopedia Eorzea Volume 2, which is a book we picked up earlier in the year, and essentially it's full of stuff that I would definitely recommend if you have this book to go through it and read it. I know some people who watch these videos, or listen to them rather, that already have the book, but actually still prefer me to read it to them, and honestly, I've been on a little bit of a trip with the Far Eastern sort of theme lately. I've really been sort of tucking myself into all of that delicious lore that's behind Stormblood in particular, and definitely to do with Doma and history of the Far East. Now, recently I was talking about the idea of future classes, or at least jobs, that we might see in Final Fantasy XIV, and a while ago I did mention the possibility of geomancy. It's one of my most viewed videos is talking about geomancy and why it's not going to be in the game, or at least the theories of what was coming next. But there's a really interesting point on that and other sources of Magicks in the story so far, at least from the Far East, that I personally didn't know about until I read through this. So without further ado, let's talk about Far Eastern magic. The art of the arcane features as prominently in the history of the Far East as it does in the annals of Eorzea, and just as Gridanian conjury differs from Ul'dah thaumaturgy, the diverse magics of these distant lands cannot be described as a single discipline. Eldritch secrets are closely guarded, such is the way of things, but a general understanding of the three main Far Eastern arts is not beyond the reach of an inquisitive mind. Firstly, then, a paragraph on geomancy. Geomancy is an art wherein the practitioner delves into the currents of air, earth, and water and combines their energies with his own to produce arcane phenomena. The disciple first arose in Yangsha, its secrets passed on from aged master to chosen student in the traditional manner. This restrictive method of succession continued for generations until Ganon, the founding father of Doma and a famous geomancer in his own right, opened a temple to teach the masses and thus brought his knowledge to the attention of the wider world. With regards to the mastery it gains over wind, earth and water, as well as its affinity for barriers, geomancy is thought to share many similarities with conjury. Scholars have also pointed out how certain aspects of the art have a kinship with Sharlayan astrology. In the nation of Hingashi, however, the geomancer's banishing and binding of evil has been misconstrued as a means to manipulate the land and invite good fortune, leading the populace to consider these mages as little more than advisors for aspiring merchants. Next, we talk about the Onmyo Jutsu, a unique art conceived in the land of Hingashi. Onmyo Jutsu exhibits aspects of both thaumaturgy and divination. For the Onmyoji, all in nature were born of either light or shadow, and it is in controlling the movement or balance between the two that arcane power is made manifest. This concept is thought to resemble the philosophy of polarity which exists in Eorzea, wherein the etheric scales can tip in either an astral or umbral direction. Symbolic of light and shadow, the discipline features many spells of fire and ice, with lightning magics representing the energies which lurk between the two extremes. Onmyoji are also known for conjuring shikigami and binding them to golem-like servants crafted from wood or clay. And finally, the Eldritch secrets of the Ul'dah. Among the Zayla of the Azim Steppe, there is a multitude of tribes who have preserved the ways of ancient Magicks. In typical Zayla fashion, the manner of their teaching, not to mention the content of the lesson itself, varies wildly from tribe to tribe. There are shamans who claim to hear the voices of the gods themselves, while yet others boast the ability to see into the future. Whilst research into these Magicks of Eld has progressed but little, a respected etherologist has documented instances of other phenomena, blasts of fire, curative touches, and the like, which prove the Zayla capable of casting the equivalent of most rudimentary spells. Distinct amongst their knowledge, however, is a rite wherein patterns engraved into specially prepared stone result in a biddable golem. These stone faces, or chunchulu in Vizela's native tongue, can serve as a focus which amplifies arcane energies, enabling the manifestation of falling comets and other such spells of devastation and ruin. And that's pretty much all we have in here about Far Eastern magic. So we've got geomancy describing purely how that works and its similarities with astrology, obviously mimicking astrologians, as well as a bit of conjury on the way as well. We also have the idea of a shaman, which is quite interesting to me. The idea of a shaman is not something new to me. It's been on my radar for a while, the idea that we could get a shaman as a healer, because they mention healing touches, as well as the ability to wield various other eldritch magics. And even the idea of bringing stone golems to life is quite enticing to me when we look at new jobs that could come to the game. And then we also have the Omiyot Jutsu, which, yeah, I quite like the idea of that, actually. The idea of tipping between astral and umbral. But to me, that's pretty close to a red mage, from my personal opinion. Especially the switching of light and dark, and the spells of fire and ice. It very much sounds like the sort of Far Eastern Reg Mage sort of idea, but it's quite interesting. The idea of summoning Shikigami and binding them as servants made from clay. Again, the idea of golems. So what we can take from that is if they decide to go for an Eastern route for one of the jobs in the future, then definitely it looks to be the sort of shamanistic type character that we expect from lore articles like this. So yeah, it's in the story now. It's just up to Square Enix to actually take from it. A lot of people say that they can't have geomancy in the game simply because of its similarities, but then again, the manipulation of ether is pretty similar between different classes anyway. It's that simple, you know, basically your interpretation of that manipulation that makes it different to create different spells. So I'm very excited to see what we get in the future, and I'm sure we'll be covering future predictions for jobs coming soon. Get some stuff right this time. So it shouldn't be too long before we start talking about the expansion, the next one. So what are your theories and suggestions for possible classes in the future? Either way, thank you kindly for listening or watching to this lore video. Wherever you are, thank you kindly, and I'll see you all next time.